Hey Startup Nation, I am so glad you came back to join us for another edition of the Startup Life. You clearly are ready to get the tools you need to get ahead of the competition. Go ahead and give us a 5-star rating while you're here. Now, if you're looking for an ad-free experience, go ahead and sign up for our Patreon page, where you will get exclusive content and access to our digital products that we're beginning to launch. The link is there in the show notes. And if you want to ask questions directly to some of our guests, follow the Startup Life Podcast Club on Clubhouse, as some of our conversations will start to happen there. But back to the task at hand. Are you ready to level up? Of course you are. Get ready as the Startup Life Podcast begins now.
It's time to be about that life, the startup life. Here's your host, Dominic Lawson.
All right, Startup Nation. So I hope you're ready to receive some value today. My name is Dominic Lawson, and this is the Startup Life, the show for entrepreneurs and career-minded professionals. You know, Startup Nation, a lot of times, many of us are not really expecting to go on the path of entrepreneurship. Sometimes it can be an event, it can be a moment, it can be something that kind of pushes us in that direction, which is why we have a fantastic guest today that knows a little something about that. She is the inventor and founder of the CPR Wrap. She's also an official sponsor of the Tennessee Titans. We're going to talk about that for sure. She is the one and only Felicia Jackson. Felicia, how are you today, good ma'am?
Hi, I am amazingly well. Thank you so much for having me today.
Awesome stuff. It's absolutely a pleasure on our end. And Startup Nation, if you're listening to this on the podcast, we are actually doing this conversation on Clubhouse. This is a unique experience to allow you, our audience, to kind of ask some questions in real time of our guests. We know we have fantastic guests on the show, so this is just a way for us to have that different level of engagement with you. So if you're on Clubhouse, and you have the ability to be on Clubhouse, because apparently it's not opened up to everybody just yet, make sure you follow the Clubhouse Club, the Startup Life Podcast, and follow our club there, and you'll be able to kind of have that conversation with not only me, but some of our guests. So Felicia, I just want to, before we kind of dive into your backstory and what you do, 2020 has been one for the record books, and they're not necessarily in a good way all the way. So, I guess I'm curious, from a professional or personal level, what is something this past 12 to 13 months has taught you?
Wow. Yeah, it has been detrimental to a lot of companies that I know,
right,
and surprisingly well to some other companies.
That's true.
Well. So what it has taught me personally is you just have to persevere. You're being an entrepreneur and being in business is not all rose colored. It is not great all the time, right? So right. You have to prepare and know that when those hard times come, and even if those hard times are extended, like this COVID deal, you just have to press through. You have to be resilient. For sure. No, that's definitely perseverance, resiliency is something that we definitely are, learning or even relearning from time to time, because I think a lot of times when there's not a sense of crisis or anything like that, and not like nobody wants to always live that way, but I think we sometimes get complacent and stuff like that, and we're not really tested in that regard. So I appreciate you sharing that. So we talked about at the top of the show, you are the inventor and founder of the CPR Wrap. If you would just kind of share with us, how the company got started. You've been doing some research. You tell this story about your son, who was, I believe, 2 at the time, and your husband. But kind of tell us about the company a little bit and how it got started, if you don't mind. Right. Yeah. So we have been in business now for a little over 4 years.
Absolutely. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much. Haven't hit the 5-year mark, but I'm hanging in there.
Gotcha.
And I am in no way, or was an entrepreneur, didn't have any type of business acumen whatsoever. So it's amazing how life, unforeseen things can throw you into the business world. But yeah, after what happened with my son, I was working in the medical industry. I thought I was going to live and die as a physical therapist.
Gotcha.
That's what I was doing. And the incident happened with him when he had a choking incident that almost took his life. And at the time, I was CPR certified every year, just every 2 years now. And I completely forgot my training. And my husband is there. And my husband is an Army veteran. I have to throw that out there.
Absolutely.
Yes. And he stepped in and I won't say what he did, and he didn't do what we were taught, but what he did saved our baby's life.
Gotcha.
And it was all about reacting. And my thought process as an innovator was to do something about it, not just for my son and my family, but for everybody else
for sure
in the world. And I ended up inventing the CPR Wrap, and here we are today, going strong, 4 years.
I hear that. No, you talked about that moment of adversity with your son and stuff like that, and it just goes to show that a lot of times that we can be the most trained, the most experienced or whatever, but sometimes life comes around and really puts us to the test, and sometimes we need that help. And thank God for your family that your husband was there to kind of do what he did and stuff like that. So I appreciate that transparency and sharing that story with me.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
for sure. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just getting ready to say it was a life lesson learned.
Absolutely.
And like we were talking about resilience and following through.
Right.
Things. I mean, it's very scary.
Absolutely.
Scary.
Absolutely.
You have to do it.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the CPR Wrap, to where if you do find yourself where, even though you may be, certifiably trained and stuff like that, the CPR Wrap kind of makes it, very easy to perform that life-saving endeavor. Kind of talk about the product a little bit, if you don't mind.
Right. So what actually came to mind was CPR Wrap. And when I say came to mind, I literally had a dream about this product.
I hear that.
I could see it, the image and everything. And it's a all-in-one template. And this all-in-one template has everything that you need to perform efficient, safe CPR. From the one-way valve mouth barrier to the visual cueing, hand placements. It shows you exactly where to do compressions, how fast. And it has simple instructions that are aligned with the American Heart Association.
For sure.
Yes, for adult, child, and infant.
Right. And I think that's why one of the reasons why we definitely wanted to have you on the show, was two reasons. The first one is that, like, a lot of times in entrepreneurship, we always hear like, it's about the almighty dollar, this, that, and the other. But sometimes, Startup Nation, we have stories like this all the time where entrepreneurship really comes out to, we just want to help people. We want to help solve a problem. And that's what something like the CPR Wrap does. And Startup Nation, if you want to check out the CPR Wrap and want to purchase that for your, first aid kit and stuff like that, go to CPRWrap.com. We have a link there in the show notes for easy access if you're listening to the replay on the podcast. But also, it's something you said there that I thought was very interesting and very important to kind of highlight, because you talk about how, and I'm on your website here, you talk about how you have the adult, you have the child, you have the infant, and you also have, I guess, the Spanish CPR Wrap as well, I guess, for our Spanish speaking community as well. Talk about, why that was important, because I mean, obviously, you got to have that because, adult size and child size are two different sizes because it's two different sizes of person. But talk about why that was important, because, we have some people who have products like that. It's like, it's one size fit all. I'm not going through that extra work. Talk about that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Right. It's just having that diversity and especially inclusion.
Right.
We as the people, we want to have that inclusion as a race, as a gender. Think about your health and safety. CPR Wrap, I knew it could be a globally recognized and used product.
Right.
So I didn't just want it to be here in the United States. I wanted to be everywhere. So it was just a matter of time before I did the bilingual wraps for the Spanish and English. And soon we're working on the English and French as well, because we have a lot of Canadian people that want it as well. For sure.
And you talked about being, in accordance with, the American Heart Association, being FDA registered and stuff like that. But I also know this is a product where you have to get that patent as well. Kind of talk about that process and the importance of, if you have a product, for many of our listeners of Startup Nation, they have products and stuff like that, and they're trying to protect that IP, that intellectual property. Talk about the importance, talk about the process of getting the patent, and talk about why it was important for you to get that patent.
Right. I knew, because when I did something, or when I started this product or this journey, I knew that I had to go in, and I knew I wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, gotcha.
And we didn't have any money. And the patent process, that's something that it was very costly. And I'm not talking about a few hundred. I'm talking about several thousands of dollars.
Absolutely.
And here I am, I'm working hand to mouth. I don't have any money. I'm bootstrapping everything, but I knew I needed to protect my invention, right off the bat.
Right.
And I knew it was very important. And so I looked up different ways that I could go about doing the patent myself initially. And I did, I did the drawing myself, and I am by any means, I'm not an artist, but I was able to foster a drawing, get my dimensions, what I thought the product should look like.
Right.
And I submitted it. And when I submitted it, that provisional patent is what they call it.
Right.
At that time, I had 12 months to perfect CPR Wrap. I had 12 months to reach out to potential distributors. And I had 12 months to tell people about it, to see if they even wanted it. And they wanted it. And I just went on. And by that time, I was able to get enough money to actually bring in a lawyer, a patent attorney.
Right.
To really do it justice. And we were awarded our patents in 2019. I'm so excited.
I hear that. Congratulations. Now, I want to ask you this, because you talked about, you're not an artist, and, to get that provisional patent. And so you just drew what you could draw. Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of times, Startup Nation, we think they're like, oh, I got to have all the bells and whistles, all my, I got to have the perfect this, the latest that, and stuff like that. And so a lot of times people either spend a whole bunch of money in order to get like a high paying artist or something like that, or they don't even start all together because it's like, oh, that's just too much work. Talk about working through that process of you saying not being an artist, but you knew that this was too important. You knew that you had a great idea and you moved forward anyway. Kind of talk about that, Felicia, because I think that's important to highlight.
Right. And you're right. A lot of people, they'll wait until they
have
the best of what they think before they even do anything with it. And you can't do that, because I always thought in the back of my mind, somebody somewhere is thinking of the same thing that I'm thinking about, and, shame on me for holding something that could benefit the world.
Exactly.
Something that I feel like is great and it can help save a life. It needs to be out there. It's all about doing the work. You have to put in the work to get the information and the data that you need to really help you to execute. It's all about execution.
Absolutely. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, you're fine. And that was one of the things that I can really pride myself on, and the advisors and mentors that pushed me along the way, because, we can be our worst enemy. I have put the brakes on CPR Wrap many times to myself for whatever reason, not thinking it was good enough, not thinking that I was good enough. But when it came to really executing and getting it out there, myself and, like I said, the mentors and advisors that I built along the way helped me to overcome those barriers. For sure.
Thank you for sharing that. And you talked about having mentors and stuff like that. I want to play a clip. You gave a TEDx talk not too long ago in Startup Nation. I want to play this clip that kind of highlights, having mentors, but also clarity, and something you talk about in that clip.
Clarity is defined as the quality of being clear. In life, as well as in business, I needed to have a clear path that could lead me to my successes. Now, some of my clarity came from my family, friends, and mentors that I met along the way. I knew that I couldn't place my destiny in the hands of blind luck, so I surrounded myself with people that were doers and thinkers. Now, after I attained the knowledge that I needed from SCORE, Launch, and places like CoLab, I was ready to show the world what I had invented.
So, Felicia, you talked about, mentors before that. And then even in your TEDx talk, you talked about surrounding yourself with people, in order to kind of push you and help mold you and help get that idea out. Kind of talk about when it comes to finding the right people to be around you, be around what you're trying to do and stuff like that. How do you go through that process? Because look, let's be honest. Sometimes we pick the right people and it works out. And sometimes we pick the right people and it don't work out. And sometimes we pick people who are just for a season. Kind of talk about surrounding yourself with the right people, Felicia.
Right. It's very imperative, and it's very, very important that you do that. And sometimes you won't know that you picked the right person until you go through something. And at the end of the day,
I hear that.
It's like you welcome them in.
Right.
You have to quickly let them go. You have to cut the cord if they're not helping you see your dream realized. And I have been through them all, Dominic. I have been through some good ones. I've been through some great ones, and I've been through some bad ones.
Gotcha.
But it's all a learning process. And if you don't mind, I want to tell a quick story.
Please do. Yeah.
One of the good ones.
Yeah.
And this was during the time as I was onboarding and learning to bring people in. Because in the beginning, I was doing everything by myself.
Right.
And I had to learn to let people help me. And so I didn't have any money. I didn't have a working prototype at the time.
Right.
And I had quit my job. I quit my job. I mean, I was making really good money, and I hadn't told my husband yet. And that was really bad.
I bet that was a different conversation, huh?
That was a whole different conversation. I tell people, please don't do that.
Gotcha.
But I did it, and my husband was he was understanding eventually. So, but I had a meeting. A group had called me to talk about acquiring my company. They still wanted me. They wanted 80% of my company. They offered me $1.2 million.
Wow.
For 80%.
Right.
And when I quit my job, we had lost our car. We were on the verge of losing our home. So that money looked really, really good to me.
Right.
So I'm at this meeting, and they have a check. They brought the money to the meeting.
So they just brought the big briefcase or the check. It's just right to you. It was like, it's right there waiting for you. Just grab it.
Let's grab it.
Gotcha.
And I wanted to so bad. And this is where the mentors stepped in, my advisors. So I excused myself, did the church lady, one finger up, gotta go to the bathroom. And I took my phone and I made that call. And it was two mentors that I resonated with the most. And I called them and I say, hey, this is what's going down. They have this check and they're offering me the.
Felicia, you still there?
And
I'm sorry, you kind of cut out for a minute. You said they're offering you this check. Sorry. No, you're good. You said you're offering this check, and then what?
Right. And I told them, and they said, Felicia, we cannot tell you not to take the money.
Right.
And we're not going to tell you to take it.
Gotcha.
But we just want you to remember why you started CPR Wrap in the first place. And that was it.
Right.
So I went back, and it was like, no, and I thought, and my thought process was, if they come to me this early in the game with nothing, with just a concept on a piece of paper,
right,
they'll still be there, or somebody will. It just wasn't the right time.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I was thinking about taking that money, and shame on me if I would have.
Right.
If I would have been very disappointed.
And to be fair, I mean, if we're being honest, I don't think a lot of people would have faulted you, right? You know what I'm saying? They're offering, a decent amount of money and capital. They also are asking a lot, 80% in equity. That's not a small chunk. But I don't think many people would have faulted you for taking that. But like you said, great job on having that mentor, those two mentors. To kind of remind you, like, why did you start this company? And Startup Nation, sometimes we need our mentors to kind of hold our feet to the fire, or to remind us of our previous self, of our previous plans and stuff like that. Because sometimes as we are on this path of entrepreneurship, sometimes we get, we kind of lose ourselves a little bit. That's fair to say, right, Felicia?
Right. It's very fair to say.
Right. We kind of lose ourselves. So, thank goodness those mentors were there to kind of, step in and remind you why you started this company, what the plan was, what the goal was, what the mission was, and stuff like that. Just to want to do a quick reset. Startup Nation, we are talking to Felicia Jackson, the founder and inventor of CPR Wrap. And if you want to check out CPR Wrap, go to CPRWrap.com. We have a link there in the show notes for easy access if you're listening to the replay on the podcast. And see, we're also here on Clubhouse doing this conversation, having this conversation with Felicia. I also want to go back to that TED Talk for something really quickly, because you talked about in that TED Talk, applying for Shark Tank and being there in the cold thing, like 30-degree weather, yes, and stuff like that. And you say you was really nervous, but you did it anyway. And I'm curious because, a lot of people are a little nervous about being on a Shark Tank or some pitch style competition like that, or even giving a TED Talk, if you will. I guess I'm curious, going through the Shark Tank ordeal, if you didn't do that, would you have done the TED Talk? Would you have done any other pitch competition? Would you have done Techstars? Kind of talk about that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Right. Yeah, the TED Talk, I hadn't, I'm going to be honest, because I didn't know what TED Talk was.
Fair enough.
And, they say ignorance is bliss.
Right.
Well, yeah, I'm very blissful when it came to being an entrepreneur, because I was saying yes to everything. But,
right.
That helped me grow. That helped me step out of the box, because I can't say I am anymore. I was an introvert.
Gotcha.
And I did not want to be in the limelight. I didn't want to sell anything, but I knew all of that had to change.
Right.
And that comes with growth with anything that you do. And I'm very happy in the beginning that I did say yes to a lot of that. I'm happy that I did go and pitch in front of those producers for Shark Tank. Mm-hmm. I say things happen for a reason to accelerate your growth as an entrepreneur, because like Gable said, this is not for everyone.
No, it is not. It's definitely not.
Yeah.
For sure. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. So, again, I think a lot of times we don't realize that, that's where the growth is, right? That little bit of, unnervedness, being nervous and that uncomfortability. That's where the growth is. It's not in just always doing the same thing over and over again, or just doing what's safe. You know what I mean? So I appreciate you sharing that.
All right, Startup Nation. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We got to pay some bills. Once again, my name is Dominic Lawson, and you're listening to The Startup Life.
Hey, Startup Nation. Imagine a job where you can work wherever you want, on whatever you want, from wherever you want. Hello to white sand beaches of Thailand or the comfort of your own couch. Oh, and most importantly, you're your own boss. Now, what if I told you that the dream job could become your reality? This is the life of a freelancer, and with some hard work and with the help of Hectic, it can be your life too. Hectic is an all-in-one business management software built specifically for freelancers who are just getting started or looking to take their freelance business to the next level. Hectic is everything a freelancer needs to get started, from an easy-to-use contracts and proposals builder to client management and project tracking to expenses and invoicing that features click-to-play technology that makes it quick and easy for freelancers to get paid. And we all want to get paid, Startup Nation. Built specifically for freelancers, Hectic is everything you need to get started. Visit gethecticapp.com/the startup life now to learn more and start for free. Yep. Adding your first client on the platform will always be free. And if you sign up through gethecticapp.com/the startup life, you'll be supporting me and this podcast, because who couldn't use a little support these days, Startup Nation? Visit gethecticapp.com/the startup life to find everything you need to start or grow your freelancing business today, and put those in-demand skills to good use in the way you've always dreamed of. The link is there in the show notes.
All right, Startup Nation, welcome back as we continue our conversation with today's guest here on The Startup Life.
And so that kind of leads me to, this next part of our conversation, because you are one of the official sponsors of the Tennessee Titans. We actually had the pleasure of having Gil Beverly, CMO of the Tennessee Titans, here on the show and stuff like that. And this came from you winning a pitch competition from our good friends at the Nashville Entrepreneurship Center and stuff like that. Kind of talk about that partnership with the Tennessee Titans, what that looks like, and what that means, what that has meant for CPR Wrap, and what you think it ultimately means moving forward, even after the fact. Right.
Yeah, that was a wonderful, wonderful welcome surprise. And being a small company, a startup, it's about product awareness, brand awareness.
Right.
You can have a great product or service all day, but if no one knows you exist,
facts.
Yeah. And so having that and winning that from them, that sponsorship puts us on their platform. They have a national platform, and everyone,
right?
Well, the majority. I won't say everyone. I mean, they love football.
Right.
People love football. They love the game. And seeing the Tennessee Titans in the Nissan Stadium, and everything that they encompass, and CPR Wrap being up there, as one of the businesses that sponsors Tennessee Titans, it was just unreal. I still can't believe it. And all the things that they're going to do for CPR Wrap. I mean, it's just amazing. I can't wait. Some of it, of course, I can't speak on.
Of course.
A lot of it, I mean, I just cannot wait for everybody to show or to see what they're going to do, because it's going to put us in the national limelight.
Absolutely. Right. No, it definitely will. And I definitely agree with that. And big shout out to you and your team at CPR Wrap, and going through that pitch competition with the Nashville Entrepreneurship Center. Let me ask you this quick follow up to that. We have a lot of people who are, who do, whether it be pitches to investors, pitches to bankers, pitches to, people on a pitch style competition like a Shark Tank or something like that. Give us some tips, some pointers, if you will, when it comes to making a pitch in general, but also like if you're trying to make a pitch to to a particular, like an investor or somebody else. Kind of talk about just like pitching tips, if you don't mind.
Right, I don't mind at all. So when I go about constructing what I'm going to pitch to
right.
an investor or doing a pitch competition,
right.
You have to look at your audience for one,
right?
Because not everybody wants the same information or need that same information. So you do have to construct it based on who you're pitching. You have to know your numbers. Especially pitching to an investor,
right?
They're going to know your price point, break even point, all of that. They want to know how you're going to make money,
right?
At the end of the day, and just have great graphics. I try not to make my pitches very wordy or very detailed. I'm a medical person, so I can get very technical. But at the end of the day, you don't want your pitch to be too technical to where they are asking you, what are you talking about? What do you mean? You want to be out there and forthright and just as simple as you can get it. A lot of investors say, treat me like a 2-year-old. I'm an
right.
investor, but you are the expert in what you're doing. I don't know anything about this. So, just teach me.
I hear that.
And so I have to remember that when I construct my pitches. And just go out there and have fun. When I'm scared the first few seconds, but after that, sometimes I can't tell you what I've said because I'm in the moment.
Right.
Right?
Right. Absolutely.
I'm in the moment. I'm enjoying myself.
Right. And I'm so glad you said that, because one of the things we talk about here on the Startup Life, is that, whether it be networking or pitching and something like that, it usually is like that first 30 to 60 seconds that's awkward, weird, nervous and stuff like that. Once you get past that part, you just like the steam just picks up. You get the rolling and stuff like that. Like you said, you forget what he said. Like, I said that, man, that was some hot fire right there. I didn't even know I said that. You know what I mean? So I'm so glad you highlighted that for sure. Thank you so much, Felicia.
Oh, my pleasure.
No worries. Once again, Startup Nation, we're talking to Felicia Jackson, founder of CPR Wrap. And if you want to check out the knowings and goings and what's going on with CPR Wrap, or if you want to purchase one for your first aid kit, it's definitely something you wanted to think about as your home first aid kit. Go to CPRWrap.com. We have a link there in the show notes for easy access if you listen to the replay on the podcast. Also, know that we are having this conversation on Clubhouse. So if you want to follow all of our, amazing guests and other type of content we're going to do here in Clubhouse, be sure to follow us on the Startup Life Podcast Clubhouse room. Gabe, I welcome you to follow the Startup Life Podcast Clubhouse room. That's a mouthful, trying to say it fast. We welcome you to kind of join our room and know about the amazing content and stuff like that and guests we're going to have on the show. So Felicia, one question before we kind of transition here, I want to ask is because one of the I saw your TechCrunch interview, and you were talking about being a woman, being a Black woman, being a founder, trying to get that access to capital and stuff like that. Talk about that difficulty. Talk about that struggle. That it's not as easy. When you fit certain demographics. Kind of talk about that a little bit, because I think that's important to highlight.
Right. It is not easy at all.
Right.
It's a struggle all the time, and you couple that with being a Black female founder, that's just double, triple the barrier.
Right. As if entrepreneurship wasn't hard enough as is.
Exactly.
Right.
And, I guess, and you don't want investors to look at me. And that's what sometimes I feel. You look at me and you only see risks,
Right.
And I don't do that. Being an investor, you're going to take on a certain amount of risks, and if you truly want to diversify your portfolio, then do it. It's not enough to just talk about it. You have to do it.
Right.
And I mean, it was one investment I remember pitching to an investor, and they said that I was the very first Black female to ever come into their office to ever pitch them, and it was like, wow, that's not something, that's not good. I'm glad that you're opening the doors for minorities to come and pitch for you. But, that should be an ongoing conversation.
Right.
Don't let me be the first and then that's it. Invite more people in, because female entrepreneurs are the fastest growing to opening of businesses, and these businesses are succeeding.
Right.
So why would you not want to? And it's ongoing. It always will be. I'm raising a $1 million fund right now, and as much publicity, as many sales, as many good things that's happening to CPR Wrap now.
Right.
You would think people are knocking down my doors. But, sometimes that's not the case, and I'm ready to be part of that change, to change it for everyone. And
change that narrative. I definitely understand that. Thank you so much for that transparency, for sure. So, look, you talked about being a serial inventor and stuff like that. So clearly CPR Wrap isn't the only thing that's in the arsenal. I guess I'm curious, what else you got cooking in the lab that you can share with us? What else you got going on in that brain of yours? Because clearly you've hit a home run with CPR Wrap, but I want to know what else is in that lab. What else you got cooking and baking?
Right. So a lot of people know or may not know, we do have a CPR Wrap or a template specifically for dogs. That's hopefully coming out. Yes. We will be the first company to ever put anything out like that at all. And I'm already in talks with some large pet companies right now, and we haven't even started production on it yet.
Gotcha.
Yes.
And that's awesome. And see, that's the thing, Startup Nation. Think about this for a minute, right? You talk about, trying to go on Shark Tank. It didn't necessarily work out, like storybook ending, but you go on there, you do you put yourself out there on Shark Tank. You put yourself out there on the TED Talk. You put yourself out there, with the Tennessee Titans and that pitch competition. You put yourself out there with the accelerators and the mentors and stuff like that. And now you're seeing the reaping of these rewards. And it's all because you were willing to put yourself out there, and let Felicia's story be inspiration and a roadmap, if you will, Startup Nation, to your journey and stuff like that. So thank you for sharing that, for sure.
Thank you.
No worries. I want to ask you this, because you talked about your husband at the top of the show, Army vet. Just want to make sure I get that in there. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You about to say something.
Oh, no. I was laughing because
Gotcha.
that sounds like my husband.
I want to ask you this, you talked about that story and stuff like that, but just talk about how supportive and how important that support has been from your husband in pursuing CPR Wrap, pursuing these engagement, entrepreneurial ventures and growing the company. Kind of talk about the support that he's been providing you.
Right. This touches my heart quite a bit, because what my husband did was when I wanted to give my all in it, when I had to put 100% of myself into it,
right,
he had to let go, and let me, even though he knew it was going to hurt our family, he could have said, no, honey, you need to keep working. You need to get a job. You quit your job. but I can't do it by myself. But he's always been the one to carry me along, to uplift me. You know, when I knew it was going to be some issues, when I knew it was going to be some troubles and some barriers. And it's very important because I've seen some companies who have went under, some companies that failed because they didn't have the support that they needed, you know. And when you don't have the support from your family, I mean, I know not everybody's going to like my company, not everybody's going to like my product, not everybody's going to like me, and that's okay. As long as I have my inner circle, my family, my friends, and my cheerleaders, like Gable, you know, he always say positive affirmation. You know, as long as I have that, you know, I know that I can succeed. I know that I can. And people ask, Felicia, you do this all the time. I'm always seeing you on social. You're always doing something, because I have people like my husband, like my family, like my friends that are constantly pushing me to be better.
For sure. Thank you for sharing that. And that just goes to show that, you know, and there's been studies that back this up, that, like, you know, one of the biggest indicators of, you know, professional success, entrepreneurial success, and the like, is having the right spouse. Yes. You know, that's, you know, a clear indicator in that. So thank you for driving that point home. I want to ask you this as we start to wrap up. And once again, Felicia, thank you so much for coming on the show. Startup Nation, we're talking to Felicia Jackson, founder of CPR Wrap. And again, if you want to purchase a CPR Wrap for your first aid kit, or just want to know what's going on with CPR Wrap, go to CPRWrap.com. We have a link there in the show notes for easy access if you're listening to the replay on the podcast. Also, we're doing this conversation on Clubhouse, the Startup Life podcast room here on Clubhouse. So make sure you follow us there to follow all of our content and guests that we're going to be having on the Startup Life podcast. So I want to ask you this, Felicia, because look, you're on this trajectory, and clearly you see it, you know, I see it, Gable sees it, everybody sees it, right? You're on this trajectory to do some amazing things, to help some amazing people and dogs as well, as you talked about earlier, and stuff like that. I guess I'm curious about something. You know, you fast forward, let's say 30 years, 40 years from now, and you decide, you know what, I'm ready to step down from CPR Wrap and you know, and let somebody else take it over and stuff like that. And at that retirement party, and they're speaking about your accolades and stuff like that, what is something you hope the person that's speaking about you say about you? Like, what do you hope they say your legacy will be? What?
Well, I hope that they would say that my legacy was someone that went in to do something that she was put here to do. And she had that passion. She had that purpose. She had the determination, and she never quit.
I hear that.
She never gave up.
I hear that. No, I think that's powerful, and I appreciate that. You know, and I want to ask this last question real quickly. If you could just go back in history, or even in present times, if you could just talk to somebody and pick their brain for like an hour, right? Who would that be, and what would you ask them?
Oh, wow. Somebody.
It can be present or past. Yeah.
Oh, man. This is a good one. Present or past. So many.
I know, right?
So many. Oh.
I know. I'm sorry. I had to put you on the spot a little bit.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Because I always, you know, my mind always takes me back. It's like anybody. My mom is gone. She passed away 4 years ago.
My condolences.
And thank you so much. And, you know, I would bring her back. She is the reason why I am me. She is the reason why I am the way I am. But I never had conversations about growing up a lot with my mom, the things that she had to make her, the things that she had to deal with, and she had to overcome to make her the person who she was.
Got you.
I would love to bring my mom back, not just to love on her and,
of course,
and over again, but to ask her life questions. You know, just when times got hard with her family, how did she do it?
Gotcha.
How did she do it? I see it on my end. But there's a lot that they didn't allow us to even be bothered with.
Of course.
They overcame.
Of course. I mean, that's what a parent does, right? You know, so I definitely understand that. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. If you don't mind me asking, I just want to ask this. You know, what's a story of your mom that highlights that strength you talk about?
Oh, my goodness.
If there's just one that just sticks out, what's that story? I would love to hear that story.
Yeah. See, my mom was a homemaker.
Okay.
And she, of course, she always loved to love cook and everything. But my mom always wanted to work. She always wanted to work in school, but she didn't. She had to take care of our kids. You know, my dad worked all the time. And she always taught me, whenever she did, like she'd sew, because we didn't have a lot of money. She'd sew our clothes. She prepared, they had a garden, and she did things of that sort. So the things that she taught me was, if you needed it, and if you needed it bad enough, then you'll make a way. You'll find a way to get it done. And she always did it. And I promise you, people in school or people out in the community, they thought that we had tons of money.
Right.
But we didn't. We didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. But because of how hard my mom worked with the things that she did with her hands, you wouldn't tell. You could not tell a difference. And so, I mean, she made a lot from nothing.
Right. I hear that. No, that sounds like the entrepreneurial mindset. That's why I wanted to ask you that. I figured that was there, which clearly you have, and you've turned it and you've used it, you know, for entrepreneur venture of your own and stuff like that. But I wanted to hear that story because I think a lot of times that the answers that we seek are in our parents or are from people who have maybe not done exactly what you've done, but they've done similar things. And you can just take that story, take that insight and apply it to your world and stuff like that. So I appreciate that transparency and you sharing that with us.
Thank you so much.
No worries. No worries. So, you know, we're going to ask this last question. Just want to say again, thank you so much for coming on the show. We've had a blast learning from you, Felicia, learning about your story. We see nothing but amazing things happening for you in the future. But if you would just kind of send the elevator back down, if you would, I'm going to give the microphone over to you. If you just share with us just some words of encouragement to take us out for the day, if you don't mind.
I don't mind at all. I don't mind at all. What I want to tell everyone is we know that the hustle game is like a drug, and that's what we're doing. We're hustling every day to build our brand. You breathe your brand. You eat your brand. You sleep your brand. And if nobody is watching, you even talk to that brand. You know, we're working 9 to 5 for someone else. You give 100% of everything that you have just to get the job done. Imagine what you give when you birth an idea from the depths of nothing into something to scale for growth. Imagine that. Something that you do for your own, something that you're putting out there, wealth for yourself and your family. You put your heart and soul into it. But I want you guys to take a step back. And you also need to breathe life into your own health. Make your health a KPI. Because if something happens to you, then that dream is done as well. So while you're building your companies, while you're building your empires, make sure that you work and build on yourself and your health as well.
I heard that. Thank you so much for sharing that. You actually share that story in your TED Talk there. And so Startup Nation, if you want to check out that TED Talk, we have a link there in the show notes for easy access. And that's going to wrap up this session of the Startup Life. We want to once again thank the founder of CPR Wrap, Felicia Jackson. Thank you so much, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed this conversation.
No worries. Thank you. We've enjoyed having you. And as always, Startup Nation, if you have an idea, be about that life, the Startup Life. If you want to let us know what you think about the show, have an idea for a show topic, or would like to advertise on a show, send us a message. Our contact information is there in the show notes, or feel free to reach out to us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Go ahead and follow us while you're at it. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast One, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and be sure to hit us with that 5-star rating. We would really appreciate that. Be sure to check out the show's website and its startup blog, where either I or some of the world's best business minds share content that will give you the edge you need in your journey, whether that's the path of entrepreneurship or climbing the corporate ladder. Subscribe to our Patreon to listen to ad-free episodes, exclusive content, and digital products that we are beginning to offer. And if you want to be part of the conversation, join the Startup Life podcast on Clubhouse to have the ability to talk directly to some of our guests. And as always, Startup Nation, if you have an idea, be about that life, the Startup Life.